UK is really good at keeping out extremists. You know, like when they kept out Iraqi extremist Ahmed Hassan after he told border officials he'd been trained to kill by ISIS. Oh no, they let him in and gave him asylum. But at least they deported him after he was caught watching ISIS videos and singing jihadi songs with the lyrics, "We are coming with you to the slaughter in your home and country." Oh no, they didn't, and he went on to bomb a train. Okay, but wait, that's just one case. Youssef Zagbar, who in 2016 told officials, quote, "I'm going to be a terrorist," and then went on to carry out the London Bridge terrorist attack a year later. It's not like we let that guy in. Oh, Sheikh Hamza Sodagar, who called for homosexuals to be burned to death and thrown off cliffs, was stopped from entering the UK when he tried to give a series of lectures in London. Oh no, he was given a visa and welcomed in. Okay, but some are gonna slip through the cracks, right? Syed Muzaffar Shah Qadri, a preacher considered so extreme he was banned in Pakistan. Someone who praised the murderer of a politician in Pakistan who spoke out against blasphemy laws. At least he was banned from the UK. No, he was allowed in and went on to do a speaking tour of British mosques. Okay, but Mohammed Naqib-ur-Rehman and Hassam Hasib-ur-Rehman, two Muslim clerics who praised the same assassin in Pakistan, they were kept out, right? No, they were welcomed by the Archbishop of Canterbury. Okay, mistakes were made, but at least we stopped 400 returning ISIS jihadists from re-entering the UK. Right? At least we were serious enough about stopping extremism to make sure that didn't happen. No, they were all allowed in and then offered council housing and welfare. Okay, but at least the UK doesn't roll out the red carpet for leaders of Saudi Arabia, a country in which gay people are fined, arrested, imprisoned, tortured and killed. Oh. So what extremists are we stopping from entering the UK? Martin Sellner, a right-wing activist who planned to give a speech in Speaker's Corner Hyde Park about the threat to free speech. Banned. Brittany Pettibone, an author and activist who planned to conduct an interview with Tommy Robinson, a national figure who's made numerous appearances on national television. Banned. Lauren Southern, a conservative journalist who planned to make videos and work on a documentary. Banned. Lauren was specifically banned for handing out leaflets which said Allah is a gay god. Maybe if she'd have just represented a country that enforces the industrial persecution of homosexuals, she'd have been embraced with open arms. It's also interesting how Pettibone was detained and deported for attempting to interview Tommy Robinson, a fate that didn't await journalists from ABC and NBC News when they arrived in the UK to interview Tommy Robinson. Now just indulge me for a second, but it's almost as if all these reasons are absolute bullshit. And the real reason for them being banned is that the UK is an authoritarian country, which has de facto begun enforcing blasphemy laws that make criticism of Islam, which is a belief system and not a race, a criminal offence. That can't possibly be true, can it? It can't possibly be true that we have a government which admits it can't keep track of 20,000 potential terrorists, yet is waiting in the middle of the night to pounce on and detain under the Terrorism Act a 22-year-old Canadian girl because she did some real-life shit posting. That's just not possible. That would be horrible. I mean, after Trump's disgusting Muslim ban, the world spoke out in unison against the outrageous idea of refusing people entry simply because of their private personal beliefs. That could never happen here. It can't possibly be true that our bureaucracy is so poisoned by political correctness it keeps 25-year-old conservatives locked up for days over their political opinions, while ignoring industrial-scale grooming scandals where young girls and children are abducted, drugged, abused and defiled for years on end, and the culprits aren't prosecuted because authorities fear they might be seen as racist, and our national broadcaster barely even covers the story, burying it between stories about the Crufts dog show and a council grant. That scenario is just too wacky to believe. I mean, it's not like while the current Conservative government detains and deports foreign nationals for criticising Islam, the potential next government in waiting wants to punish British citizens for criticising Islam. Who would believe such nonsense? Who would believe that authorities are turning a blind eye to marauding rape gangs while arresting thousands of people a year for offensive tweets? Who would believe that teachers are being reported to government counter-terror radicalisation bodies for saying God loves you? Who would believe that we can't afford to keep track of Islamic terrorists or tackle spiralling violent crime, but are quite prepared to spend £20 million policing Julian Assange 24/7? Who would believe that while acid attacks and stabbings explode, police are literally being sent to investigate playground insults? Who would believe that while Deliveroo drivers refuse to work in certain parts of the country because of violent attacks, police are encouraging people to call emergency numbers if they're offended by tweets? Who would believe that while police budgets are being slashed and the public is being told not all crimes can be investigated, a man in Scotland faces prison time for a joke video in which he made his pug dog mock Nazis? Ha 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 ha. Oh shit. Who would believe that we have a media that gets more irate about Trump's retweets than 411 injured and dead victims of Islamic terror in the UK in the last year alone? Thank God we don't have that. Who would believe that we have a government that's tougher on Facebook posts than returning ISIS jihadists? Who would believe that while we have all this going on, we also have a political establishment that's literally trying to overturn and annul a national referendum result? Who would believe any of that silliness? The only circumstances under which any of that could be true is if the UK was no longer a democratic country, and was in fact an authoritarian state in which freedom of speech and freedom of assembly don't actually exist anymore. And we all know that's not the case, don't we?